So yesterday we have discussed about Informatica, that is filter transformation. So in Informatica, when you want to load data into the target table, you want to filter the data. If your source is a relational table, you can use the where clause filter condition in the source qualifier transformation itself. But if your source is a flat file, then you have to use filter transformation that filters the data. So whichever record satisfies the filter condition true, that will be succeeded. If the record does not satisfy the condition, that is the condition fails, then the record will be dropped. Or filter transformation will be used to load data into multiple targets. So in this case, if you want to load into multiple targets, then in Informatica, in a traditional programming, you use if-then-else-if statements to load data into multiple targets. It's a if condition looping. If the first condition satisfies, then it will not be tested for other conditions. But if you want to load data into multiple targets, then you use filter transformation, where filter will, how many filter transformations you have in a mapping, each record will be read by all the filter transformations in the mapping. Each record will be read by all the filters in the mapping. So when you load, every record will be read. It is called input read. Reading of input data is read by all the filter transformations, and each record is tested for all the filter conditions. That is, all the filter transformations will test for each record. Whichever satisfies the condition, it will go to the target table or to whatever output of it, of the filter. The major thing is how many filter transformations you have, that many times it will read the input data. It will test for all the conditions, and whichever satisfies the condition, it may satisfy the one filter condition or multiple filter conditions, then record will go out of the multiple filter conditions, filter transformations. Then we used another transformation called router. The purpose of router transformation is to load data into multiple targets, but it has input group and output group. Data which is coming in is called as input group. Data which goes out is the output group. In that there are two groups called user-defined group and default group. User-defined group is we give the filter condition, group filter condition. If the record satisfies the user-defined group condition, then it will go out. In a router, it will read the input data only once, but test for all the filter group conditions, user-defined group conditions. If the record does not satisfy any one of the, if the record does not satisfy all the user-defined group conditions, then it automatically falls in the default group. Then you can take that out, or you may leave it off. But router transformation reads the input data only once. Test for all the user-defined group conditions. Whichever satisfies the condition that record true, that will record the output of the router transformation. But if the record does not satisfy any of the user-defined group condition, it will fall into the default group. This is what we have discussed in yesterday's class. And also we discussed about the importance of the best practice of expression transformation. We use expression transformation in a scenario to rename the columns, to take only the columns which we require, rather than not all the columns from the source tables. Generally in projects it is split into multiple streams, so best practice, use an expression transformation. Then we discussed about two sources. One is a table, the other is a file. You need to load data into multiple targets. One is if the employee is not null, load it into TGT empty sal table. If the employee is null, you load it into error employee table. Because the source is one is a table, the another is a file, we used as a joiner transformation to join. Then to load data into multiple targets, then we used filter transformation. So when you execute it, it should load only into TGT-EMP table. Let me first delete the data from TGT-EMP SAL table, then delete from error employees table, and let me execute it. Select the star from it has not loaded any data into the error employee table. Select star from TGT-EMP SAL. Let us see the count, 27 records. Yesterday, why we saw it was previous batch run. I didn't delete the target table. So in the previous batch when we executed, it has a null value employee was being loaded, so we were able to see that yesterday. So this is what we have discussed till yesterday. Now my question for all of you is it clear, everybody, till what we discussed yesterday? Is it clear for all of you, or do you have any questions? If you have any questions, please ask. Biba, are you done with your lab, or you are not feeling well? Yesterday you haven't done the lab, it seems. Is it right? Okay. Is there a way to debug if the records are not inserted into the target table? That we will discuss. There is a debugger mode which we will see. Okay, Yasin. Yeah, I know, Biba, I know that. That's why I was asking you. Are you okay now? Okay. Now, our discussion point of Informatica now is why it did not load data into error employee table. Because in the source table contains 28 records. Out of this, 27 records will have employee ID and one record has a employee ID as null. So this record should have been loaded into the target table. Now, let me show you why. I hope you are able to see this. You made the employee salary as your master source. You defined the join condition and you have a filter. I didn't put expression transformation for space constraint. So when you extract the data, Informatica will extract data from both the sources. Then whichever you make the master source, that will be put into your joiner cache. Then one record at a time, SRC employees data will come, scans the cache of your joiner transformation and goes out. Is not is null employee ID, filter one condition true, loaded. Second record comes 86468, scans the cache, record exists. So along with that employee ID salary will be taken out. Whichever port you take out, that only it will show you. So I don't need to take employee ID. So I have taken the salary. So this employee ID, first name, last name is coming from one source. Based on the condition, I got the salary out. So not is null employee ID loads into the target table. 86465 comes in, scans the cache. 86465 comes in, scans the cache, record does not exist. 86465 is not there in the joiner transformation cache, so that record gets dropped because of your join condition, and the join type is normal join. Normal join means equi join. Then 86469 comes in, employee ID scans the cache, exists, corresponding salary it will take out and goes to the not null and loads the data into the target table. Employee ID with null ID it will come, scans the cache. Condition failed, so it has dropped the record. Because the condition failed, it has dropped the record. The record has not come out of the joiner transformation. Record hasn't come out of the joiner transformation. That is the reason the record is not loaded into the error employee table. This null employee ID, I'm showing you once again. This null employee ID scans the cache. The condition failed. When the condition failed, there is no null employee ID, so it will drop the record. Joiner will drop the record. So this record gets dropped in the joiner itself. It will not go out of the joiner transformation because it is a join condition is equal to, and the join type is equi join or normal join. So that record didn't go out of the join transformation. If you would have gone out of the join transformation, then we would have, in one of the filter condition, it would have satisfied and it would have gone to the target table too. That is error employee table. But it hasn't gone because it does not have the condition failed. Based on your join condition and the join type, the record failed. Have you got it, this please? Are you clear about this? The join type was normal and the join condition failed. Normal means equi join. So the record dropped at the joiner transformation itself. That's why it did not load into your come out of the joiner transformation. Is it clear now? Why it didn't load data into the target table? Because the condition failed. When the condition is failed, so the record does not go out of it. So there was no chance of filter 2 testing it, filter transformation testing it. That's why it failed. Now what is the solution? As we discussed earlier, we have put the master as the sales salary data, salary source, condition. Then you have join type normal join. So your master source is your salary. Detail your SRC underscore employees, which has 28 records. Basically, what we want in the joiner transformation is it should get all the data out of the joiner. It should get all the data from the joiner transformation out of SRC employees table. SRC employees table data should come out. Here we want corresponding salary for each employee whose salary exists. If it does not exist, we want that record also with the salary null value. With salary null value, we want it. But we want all the records from a SRC employees table. That is my requirement. So what I do? In Informatica, there are other rejoin transformations. which you can, what does mean by this join type? You click on the help, automatically it will take you to that join transformation. There are three types of join, please observe it. Normal join is nothing but equi-join. Now, what is normal join between these two sources? One is master, the other is detail source, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 3, 4. Normal join, this product part ID is equal to this product part ID. Then it will give you this 1 is equal to 1, so this record will come. 2 does not exist, 3 is equal to 3, 3 you will get it. 4 does not come out of it. So 1 and 3 will be the output of it. This is equi-join. Then what is master outer join? The master outer join keeps all rows of data from the detail source and matching rows from the master source. The master outer join keeps all rows of data from the detail source and the matching rows from the master source. So in our case, we want all the data from the detail source because you made this master source. So I want all the 5 records from this SRC employee stable data and the corresponding salary. Whichever employee has the corresponding salary, I want it. But I want all the records from this source. So if you use master outer join, it keeps all the data from the detail source and the matching rows from the master source. It keeps all the rows of data from the detail source and the matching rows from the master source. It discards the unmatched rows from the master source. It discards the unmatched rows from the master source. So as per this example, master is 1, 2, 3, detail is 1, 3, 4. As per your, if you put master outer join, it keeps all rows from the data from detail source, means it will guarantee 1, 3 and 4 as output plus matching records of the source. What is the matching? For 1 and 1, the size will come out. For 2, there is no matching. 3, yes, matching. So the output will be 1, 3 and 4. 1 sheet cover and the size and color. So master source keeps all rows of data from the detail source and the corresponding matching rows from the master source. It discards unmatched records. This is master outer join or right outer join. And detail outer join means a detail outer join keeps all rows from the detail source. A detail outer join keeps all the data from the master source and the matching rows from the detail source. Full outer join means keeps all rows from both master and detail source. That is called full outer join. That is called full outer join in joiner transformation. So clear everybody regarding these join types? So in our case, we require master outer join because we want all the data from the detail source and the matching salaries from the master source. So that's why we'll make it as master outer join. There is a bit confusion here. Master outer join means it keeps all the data from the detail source. Varshita, Venkat, Yasim. Is it clear for you? So in our example, we want all the data from SRC employee table and the corresponding salaries. So we will use master outer join. So change this join type to master outer join and say OK. Save your work. So this is your master outer join. I set it up where joiner type properties master outer join, provided you make salaries as your master. Salaries as your master, please. Provided you make salaries as your master. So it will get you all the data from the detail source and corresponding salary from here. Then go back to the workflow manager. Open your session. When you make any changes to the mapping, Again you say refresh. Again you say refresh. Let me delete the data in my target table. Employee table doesn't have any, error employee table doesn't have any data. The workflow designer start. Before we see the results, now you make it as master outer join. How it works, please observe it. Join a transformation. I made it as a master outer join condition. Source and target. Just I changed the master outer join. So salaries is in the cache of your joiner. First record comes in, scans the cache. Record exists, then the corresponding salaries goes out and it loads the data into target employee sal. 8648 scans the cache, record exists, corresponding salary of 81,900 goes to the filter transformation, satisfies and loads it. 86465 scans the cache, record does not exist. So corresponding salary, there is no value for it. So it will return a null value for salary. And the corresponding first name, last name employee coming from SRC employees goes to the filter transformation, loads it. 8649 comes in, scans the data, record does not exist, sorry. So corresponding salary is 82,000, goes out, inserts it. You have a null employee ID, scans the cache for null, condition failed, but it will get you the corresponding detailed source data with salary as a null and inserts. That's now you observe it. In the filter transformation, is null employee ID true? So it will go to the error employee table and loads the data. So this is how it will work. I have already loaded the data now, so let me check. Did I execute it? So 27 records record count, and the error employees will have 1 record. So this is how master outer join should be used in your joiner type. Is it any questions on this, please? Till here, do you have any questions? What, Asim, are you there? Okay. So, you remember in life or in training programs or anywhere, few things I want to tell you very clearly with all my experience. Very few things people miss out. First and foremost, when you come to any training, it is nothing to anybody, any person or anything like that. Generally in my training program, I not only share the subject, sometimes I share my experience. 2-3 things people have to remember very carefully in this. Whenever you attend any training program or anywhere else, please have an open mind. Don't be prejudiced with something very fundamentals and all that stuff. The world has moved away from fundamentals. World is moved into conceptual solutioning. What we have observed in the industry, there is for every solution there are multiple ways. You want to reach anywhere, it's multiple ways. So it should be very conceptually. People have to understand. And if you are an ETL consultant, especially from ETL perspective or BO consultant's perspective, first and foremost, with all my experience, I'll tell you, first and foremost, whenever you want to work on ETL space and you are a ETL consultant, first is you need to study the source data. Then target table, structure and all that stuff, how it is and all that stuff. See mapping specification document. That is where is the logic, expected results and all. These are the three things. Then, as a ETL consultant in projects, nobody uses Informatica right away. Informatica is a program. Basically, you are giving instructions to Informatica in English now. That's all. Olden times, we used to give in assembly language. If you are from engineering background or MCA background, we used to write assembly programming for microprocessor. I studied 8085 was the microprocessor. So we used to write assembly languages where there used to be code and we used to write it. So that era is gone, but internally it is assembly language only, machine language only. Informatica or any tool in the world is you give the instructions, it will work. So study the source data, table structure, mapping specification logic. Understand the challenge. Understand, lot of people doesn't understand the problem statement. If you understand the problem statement, solution you can find out easily. That is what our experience is. Understand the problem statement. Then after this four things, what people do, generally what we have done in the projects is, we will try to solve the problem without using Informatica logically. Example. The same example which we have done now. After we understand everything, then we will come to Informatica, not the tool. Our understanding, there what we will decide, what is the source, what is the target, is it multiple sources or a single source? Are we loading into multiple targets? We decide. Then, what are the transformations required? What are the transformations required? Because we need combination of transformations to be used. And that's the reason. And also you should know what is the functionality of each transformation, which I am explaining it to you, but still you have to read help. See, I am a trainer. I'll put it in this way. I can take horse till the water. I cannot make it drink. I will share my knowledge. I will share my experience. If I don't know, I say I don't know. Oh, it's not guaranteed that I should know everything. So whatever I know, I will tell you. If I don't know, I say I don't know frankly. But to gain more, you have to read the help. Now coming to this example which we have done, how I would have achieved is, okay, two sources. One is a table, one is a file. Right away I have to use a joiner. I need to load data into multiple targets, so I have to use multiple filters. Then in the source data, one table contains null value of employee IDs and corresponding salary does not exist. So what to do? Should I take this record? No need to load data into the target table, or should I load that null value employee ID? If I say yes, then how? Then we see what is the joiner type and we go for which is a master. Master, in this case we did master outer join. After you do this, then you do the unit test. Then you do the unit testing of that mapping which I have done and check the results. To check the results also, you should know SQL. You need to write select statement on both source and target. This is the way people will understand, people will do it. I'll give an example. What is all this is about is map in your mind. We call this as map in your mind. As In 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Steve Covey says, if your map is very clear, then achieving the goal will not be a challenge. Map it very clearly what you want it, and you should be at the right place. So, one example I'll take few minutes of yours. There was one musician called Beethoven. Have you heard about him? Beethoven. Ludwig Beethoven is the person name. If you want more information, you can search it. Or the new movie called Yuvaraj, the Hindi movie which has come. In that, the first song is based on Beethoven music. That's what it is written. I heard it. I don't know what is the music of Beethoven. So, if you know it, fine. If not, just listen to the story. This great man was from Greece, about in 17th century or 18th century. This man created symphonies. I don't know the correct spelling. I think this one. Beethoven Ludwig. He was from Greece. Look at this person. He created some 7 to 10 symphony, they call it as, like a music arranger. Raja, the great musician, in my opinion, one of the greatest musicians, tried to create symphony in, I don't know more about it, but he once I heard he tried to create symphony, a arrangement, a music. Maybe it is like a raga, new raga, in our tradition, new raga you find out or something like that. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not that music. I don't know much about music. So he creates symphony. Basically, he is a conductor. He creates music, conducts. So he conducts music like Zubin Mehta. If you have observed Zubin Mehta and all, conductor will be standing to the back of the audience with the 2 sticks in his hand, 1 or 2 sticks, and in front of him musicians will be. Please imagine, in front of Ludwig Beethoven there were musicians, and Ludwig back is to the audience. So audience can see all the musicians with the violins and drums and guitar and everything, singers, everything will be standing in a row, and the conductor will be conducting with his hand. If you have seen Balasubramaniam or any musician, they will be using their hands to conduct the music, pitch and low pitch, high pitch and all that stuff. That is what is called conducting. So think like Beethoven was conducting this music in Austria, where he created the symphony in the hall concert. It was a concert of Beethoven, and he gave that symphony music to the concert. So it was a fabulous music which was given by Beethoven. After the music is done, please imagine, after the music is done, there was a standing ovation. There was a standing ovation for Beethoven. But Beethoven was walking away from the stage. Beethoven was walking away from the stage. Please imagine very clearly what I am talking about. Musicians can see the public can see the musician. In between is Beethoven. Beethoven is facing towards the musicians, not to the audience. That is the scene. So people clapped, people gave him applause, standing ovation, but Beethoven was walking off away from that stage to the corner of the room. But one person will come and turns him to face the audience. When he sees the audience, he cries with joy. Literally cries. He joy with that audience. My question for you is, in the first step, why did he walk off? In the first step, why did he walk off? If you know Beethoven's story, you can answer it. But if you don't know, can you guess it? Why did he walk off in the first step? Have you understood my question? If you didn't understand, please ask me again. Why did he walk off in the first step? But after somebody came and turned into the audience, then he cried by joy. Can anybody? Have you understood the question? Have you got my question? Anybody else? The reason why he walked off, because he was deaf. Beethoven cannot hear. So when Beethoven was walking off, when people were clapping, Beethoven didn't know. That means he cannot hear the music also, what the music people are conducting. But he's a conductor. So he created the music. He's a creator, a fabulous creator. Believe me, I have heard about him. Fabulous. Symphonies of Beethoven is marvelous. That's what I'll tell you. That's my question. Is that he used to conduct music. He used to create music. Music is written basically with all notes and all. But he has to compose the music and all. How he used to do is, he was not born deaf. Beethoven was not born deaf. He was, over a period of time, he became deaf. He lost his hearing capabilities and all. How he used to conduct music was, at the very young age, he was a fabulous musician. His father was a musician. So what he used to do, please understand this. He used to create the music on the piano, but he cannot feel that music and all. So what he used to do is, he used to take one of the wires of the piano and keep it in between his teeth. So that the vibrations of that wire, he used to feel the music. The vibrations of that wire, he used to feel the music. That's what is written. So basically, my point of view is, he is deaf, he cannot hear it, but how he created it, whole music was mapped in his mind. Only the musicians are to execute it. Like our computer will execute what you have written. So musicians will execute what the master said. So everything is mapped in his mind. That's what the Beethoven, Mozart. I think Beethoven was there was another musician called Mozart also. It was Mozart, then Beethoven, or Beethoven, then Mozart. I don't know. Who is first, I don't know. So, the musician, he had the mind, mapped in his mind what that music was all about. He only executed it. For that, he used to practice on the piano by putting the wire between his teeth and do it. So, that was the beauty, that was the greatness of Beethoven. What I am trying to drive you the point is, this 6 steps, it should be mapped in your mind. Then Informatica is just a tool to execute it. Lot of people, the greatest invention of this world, one of the greatest invention of this world is telephone. It was being invented by Graham Bell. The tragedy of Graham Bell is, his wife is deaf, his daughter is deaf. They cannot hear it. So he invented one of the world's masterpiece of communication and all what has followed up after the telephone invention. But in his family, his wife nor his daughter can hear that bell ring because they were deaf. So these were all the challenges for them. So my point of view is, have this mapped. Have this mapped in your mind. Informatica is just a tool to execute it. Are you with me, please? Beauty of the seven. Fabulous. But as a human being, he's a very bad man. Like our Shane Warne. You read about his history. You can search in internet, you will get it. Ludwig Beethoven. Actually, he said that he created many musics, but they were burnt out, or he burnt it. Something is there about it. So, coming back to our class, only thing in the 8th mapping you have to do is change this to master outer join. You will get the results of it. Now, the next mapping, same mapping, same source system, same two target tables, but we will do it in a different way. Are you with me, please? I'll take 2 minutes break. I'll just go out and get a glass of water and come back. Just I'll take a break, few minutes, and then I'll come and discuss this. Now, are you with me, please? Shall I start the class now? Same example. I want to extract data from two sources. One is a table, another is a flat file. Load data into multiple targets. In place of filter, we will use a router here. Now, let us look at it from a different perspective. Now, move away from software, move away from computers, move away from all this technology, terminologies, and all that stuff. Let us look at from a layman terms one concept. Have this very clear, then you will understand what I was trying to drive. Go back when there were no computers in the banks. In India, about 20 years back, there were no computers in the bank. So how the process was, how everything in this world is built on a process. So how was the process? Just have clarity clear, then solutions will be found easily. Process is, you want to withdraw money from the bank. So what you do? You write a check. You put a signature and the amount you wanted, let's say 1,000 rupees. Now what is the process? You give it to the clerk in the bank. So what he will do? That is my discussion point. What he or she will do now. No computers, nothing, just look at it. What he will do? Think about it. When he gives the check, when you give the check, imagine you are in a bank, you are a clerk sitting there, somebody has given you the check. What first step we will do is, we will go to the book where this person's accounts information is stored in a book, which we call it as a general ledger, or a book, or a file, or a book, whatever it is, which has the information about accounts in that book. So what you do? This clerk will take your check, and what activity he will do? He will look into the book to check the account number. So what is the clerk doing? He is looking into that book to check what that account is, that account number exists or not, to check. So if he exists, then he will give you the money. First he will check if the account number exists or not and checks the balance. And if you have the balance amount, then he will issue the amount. Else, what he will do? He will return the check. What is he doing? He will go to that book, opens it, go back 20 years back. In a bank, in the back of your clerk, there used to be a big table. There used to be books with different accounts, and in a huge ledger it used to be. And on the top of that hard cover, they used to write 1001 to 1000, 2500, one book, account IDs. 2501 to 4500 account IDs. Like this, there used to be huge books laid out there, and as soon as the check comes, they will see the account ID. He'll go to that book which falls in that account ID, indexes, scans it, opens that book, and sees his balance is there or not. If it is there, issue the check. If it is not there, then return the check. What is that clerk is doing? For every check he receives, he will look into that book to verify if that account ID exists or not and the balance is there or not. Then he will issue the check. Now look at it from another perspective. There is a clerk in your HR department. He has a file with each employee ID and the corresponding salaries to be paid to each employee. So at the 1st of every month or 31st of every month, let's say 1st of every month, what he will do? He will have a file of all the employees' information, a table or file, let's say file only, no computer. What he will do? Imagine now, he will take each employee ID, check in the salaries file, what is this? For that employee ID, what is the corresponding salary? Where is he looking at? From the salaries file. This is a file of salaries in which it has the information about salaries to be paid. So whenever each employee comes in, he will go and check in the file for him what is the corresponding salary. Then he will put the salary and give it off. If that employee which is coming from here does not exist in the file for that corresponding employee, what he will say? No balance, returns the check. No balance with salary. Or an employee will come which exists in my salaries file. What is the corresponding? But there is no salary for him also in the file. He has an employee ID, but he does not have a salary in the file. So what he will do? He will say no balance. He will use blank here. He may use blank here. So what is he doing? Every employee when he comes in, he is looking into salaries.txt file, checking condition. The employee which is coming from an employee's file, does it exist or not? If it exists, what is the balance amount? If exists, if they don't have balance, no balance. If that employee does not exist in my salaries file, balance, I return it. There is no balance for this employee ID. What is the clerk doing? He is looking into that salaries file. What is the clerk doing in the bank? He is looking into, like a book, he is looking into that book of general ledger to find that balance exists or not. They are looking into it. Same way, in our example, coming to the mapping example. Before I come to the mapping example, are you with me regarding this example of my point of view is for looking into that table, looking into that general ledger or HR department into salaries.txt file. Looking into that. Each employee ID or each account ID when it comes is looking into general ledger or employee ID looking into salaries, looks into it, scans it, finds the balance, gives it. If the balance is not there, he says no balance. In a HR department, looks into that salaries file and do it. Are you with me, please? Everybody. Sita and Rupali. Because if you go to any department in the olden days, there used to be a ledger book, you give a bill, he will enter it here and he will check that account exists or not, he will put a signature or whatever. So you are looking into it. In the same way, we will do our Informatica mapping of SRC employees and salaries. What we do, let's say we have an employees table, which we call it as SRC employees, which will have employee ID, e-name, whatever it is, and we have a salaries file. Imagine practically, you have a salaries file, which has employee ID and its corresponding salary. So every time what I do, I'll take one employee ID and check it in this file. Is that employee ID, which is coming from my employee ID input, that is coming from I rename it from SRC employee, I'll check it. Was this employee ID exists or not? If it exists, give me the corresponding salary value. What is he doing from SRC employees table? We are looking into that salaries.txt file to get the corresponding salary. To do this look on salaries, Informatica provides you with a transformation called lookup transformation. You can look into that salaries file. So looks up for values from a database object or a flat file and provides the corresponding value, or a flat file and provides the corresponding value to other components. So looks into that file or a table, looks up values from database objects or flat files and provides to other components in a mapping. Means from our SRC employees, we want a corresponding salary, so Informatica uses a lookup transformation. The functionality of it is to get a related value. In our case, we want the related value as salaries. Or if record exists or not, we will do it for SCD1 and SCD2 discussion. But to get a related value, you look into it. So what we are getting a related value in this example, get the salary value, or in the bank example, balance. So from salaries.txt file for corresponding employee ID, I will look into it to get the related value. That functionality you will get using lookup transformation. This can be used in many scenarios, like you have a table called, in your source table, there is a table like this, which has employee ID, employee name, and he has a region ID in the source table. But in my target table, I want employee ID, employee name, and the region ID, and the region name also. So what I do? This is one source, and in one table or a file, I have region ID and the region name. So from this region ID, I will look into that region table or file to get the corresponding value. For that purpose, we use lookup transformation. To get the related value, we use lookup transformation. So if the lookup, one more or four values are looked up into a database table or a flat file, if the condition is true, it will return the value. If the condition is not true, it will return a null value. The functionality of lookup is like this. If each employee ID you look into the salaries file, if the condition is true, this employee ID from SRC employees table goes into that lookup transformation to find the salaries of that employee ID exists. If it exists, gets the related value. If the employee ID does not exist, it will return null value. In this manual example, we said no balance is there, we say, but here it will return a null value for that corresponding employee ID if it does not exist. So lookup is a very simple mapping, looks up for values in a database or a flat file, and if the condition is true, you have to specify the condition. You are looking into this. This employee ID is equal to this employee ID, or this account ID is equal to this account ID. Based on some condition, you are looking into it. So you look into that transformation like a joiner. Like a joiner. It will work like a joiner, but here you have already achieved by joiner. But to make you clarity clear, I am using the lookup transformation, which will be used in a different perspective. But I thought this is the best place where you can introduce lookup transformation. So, like a joiner, it is a condition because one record is coming, scans for the same condition, if that salary exists or not. If it exists, you are going to give me the data out. Like a joiner only, it will work, but in a different scenario. So you are looking into that file to get a related value. For that purpose, you use lookup transformation. So based on some condition, you will get the related value. That condition you specify. If the condition is true, whatever the value you are returning, it will be returned. If the condition fails, it will return a null value. It will return a null value. If no match is found, it will return a null value. That is the functionality of a lookup transformation. So let us create the same mapping. You got the general example and the corresponding discussion I have with your lookup. Are you clear? How it is used, I will tell you, don't worry about it. But are you clear that looking up into that file or a table to get the corresponding matched record or unmatched? If it is unmatched, you will get a null value. If it is matched, get the corresponding value. That's all. Simple example. You are a clerk sitting in HR department. You have a file of salaries information and you give him an application to give you the salary. So you look into that file, gets you the salary. Oh, you are ex-banker. Okay, fine. Sita, Biba. I'm not asking Yasin because he will be knowing in ab initio very clearly this concept. I want Sita, Rupali and Biba. Are you clear? Okay. Imagine in a very simple way. Sit the clerk, get the rate, look into the salary. Like in the olden days, we used to go and pay the bill, if you have observed it. Telephone department, we used to stand in the queue and pay the bill. So what the clerk used to do, take your bill, goes into his register, looks into that register, that bill number exists or not, that water bill number exists or not. If it exists, then you will make entry there. Okay, boss, you have paid. Here, reverse. We are looking into the salaries, get the corresponding value out. Now, let us do the same mapping, same source, same target, same logic, but only we will use lookup in this. Lookup for TGT, EMP, SAL. So what is your source? SRC employees. What is your target? Error employees and TGT, EMP, SAL. We will not use a joiner here, we will use a lookup transformation here. So best practice, create expression. Now look, observe the target tables. Please observe the target table. It needs salaries.text. Sorry, salaries it needs. But from where you are getting that salary? You are going to get the salary from salaries.file. So we will do a lookup into that salaries.file. We will do a lookup into that salaries.file, like a clerk looking into salaries file, or like a banker looking into a general ledger file. I am going to look into it. To look into salaries.file, we use a transformation called lookup transformation. Lookup syntax, please write it down, is LKP, and salaries is the name. Now you have a source button, you have a target button. We'll explain you what is this difference when we come. We'll do more. But first, like a source, go back to the previous mapping. What did you do for source salaries? You defined the structure of your source. You defined the structure of your source. Same way, for lookup, you will define import from flat file, where it is in SQL and class examples, salaries.txt file. Like you define the source, you define the lookup structure also, comma delimited, finish. There is a combination of source, combination of joiner and all that stuff. You may ask me a question, why are we using it? We have done it with joiner. My answer to that question is I am introducing this transformation so that you can understand in both ways. Then where it is predominantly used, when we come to the business case, we will explain you. So this is my employee ID. Look at it from a salary joiner transformation perspective. What did you do? You joined them. Put this employee ID only. You don't need other columns. And rename this. Now in a lookup transformation, whenever you create a lookup transformation, input port, output port, L port and R port. R port we will discuss later. What is associated port we will discuss later. So you have input port, output port and L port. L port means they call it as lookup port. Means the employee ID salary which is coming from that salaries file on which table or file you did the lookup. Those columns are called L ports. From which file or table on which you did the lookup. If you do a lookup on a general ledger, the fields of general ledger will become the lookup ports. You do a lookup on salaries.txt file, the fields of salaries.txt file will become the lookup ports. On which table or file you are doing the lookup. Then output, you can take that values out, that's why it has output port only. And you need an input to it, condition. Check the condition, this employee ID and that employee ID exists or not. I renamed it to employee ID input. Condition. Employee ID of the table or file on which you did the lookup and the transformation port, employee ID input. Then you say OK. So if the condition is true, whatever the value you have in that salary, it will give you. If the condition is not true, it will give you a null value. That is the functionality of a lookup. Either it will return a value or it will return a null value. The same logic which I am talking about. If checks the salaries file for that employee, corresponding salary will be returned. If the employee exists and it does not have a balance, then it will give you no balance. If the employee is not at all there in that file, then it will give you null value in Informatica. Null value in Informatica. Now, I got the corresponding employee salary information. Now I need to load data into my target. One is not is null employee ID to be target table. So I use a because I need to load data into multiple targets, I use a router transformation to load data into multiple targets. RTR is the naming convention. So what is the input for this mapping? Employee ID till the gen age. That is your input to your router transformation, and you take the salary out. You take the salary out. You can take the salary out. Then in the router, write group filter condition. I give the name TGEMP-SAL for this group condition. I give a name. What is the condition yesterday we did? Not is null employee ID. That is one condition. Another group filter condition. It is null employee ID. You can use default group, but for practice purpose only, I want you to write all these things. Mirror employees. to be loaded into the error employees, I give the condition as seasonal employee ID. So it will create two group conditions. So I load one into one target along with the salary. Be careful, from TGT source I'll go and insert the data into the one target table. Another error employee data into error employee target. So instead of a joiner, you have used a lookup. Instead of a joiner, you have used a lookup. Lookup functionality, it will only do is get the related value. If the record does not exist, if the condition fails, it will return a value. If the condition is true, it will return whatever the salary field has the value from the file on which you did the lookup. This is the functionality of a lookup transformation. So please open your sheet. Already you have imported the source and the target. For 11.8.3, import the lookup file from salaries.txt file. Venkat, if you want to call me, you can call me after the class. I will be free for half an hour after the class. You are done? Only SQL and class examples. Are you done, please? Okay. Now what happens? Please imagine the previous mapping. What you have done, you had two sources. So you gave two source connections and two targets. So you gave target connections. Here you have one source. So you give one source. You will give one source connection. Two targets. Two target connections you give. But your data is coming lookup. I am talking about lookup transformation. Your data is coming from the lookup transformation. That is your lookup transformation. Into it, you need the data. Data should come from where? From salaries.txt file. So what you should do to get the data into this lookup transformation. So at runtime, what happens is Informatica gets the complete data from the file or table on which you did the lookup, gets the data from the table or file on which you did the lookup, and puts it in a cache, like a joiner. One set of data will be in a cache, so lookup needs one set of data. Lookup on which you did that, looked up onto the table or file to get that related value at runtime. It will put that data in a cache, in a memory space at runtime, like a joiner. Lookup needs a cache, so it will put the cache in it. It will allocate a memory space to this at runtime. That is called lookup caching enabled. Lookup has a cache like a joiner transformation. Lookup has a cache like a joiner transformation. At runtime, it will allocate the memory space. There are three types of caches in lookup transformation. One is called static. That is default. Whenever you create a lookup transformation, it will create a default static cache. The second one is called persistent. We will discuss, and dynamic. These are the three lookup cache types. Lookup has three lookup caches type. One is called static, the other is called persistent, then dynamic. Static is the default cache, which will be represented by the lookup caching enabled. Lookup caching enabled. And you have lookup cache persistent. You have dynamic lookup cache. You have dynamic lookup cache. I'll explain you the difference between these three later part. So by default is static, means lookup caching enabled is by default. It allocates memory space at runtime, and it will have data cache size auto, means it will create a cache like a joiner, puts the data in the cache, and also index. Index is based on the what are the columns on which you are using the lookup condition. Based on that, it will create the index. So like a joiner, it has a cache. It will put the data in the cache. So as soon as we execute Informatica mapping, source data, it will get the source data from the source. Simultaneously, it will get the data from the file or table on which you did the lookup. So if you have 5 lookup transformations, all 5 lookup transformations, as soon as we execute the session, source will get the source data. Lookup will go and get the data from the table or file on which it is doing lookup and puts it in the cache. So source data will be extracted, data into the cache will be put from the table on which you did the lookup, then it will do row by row process. So in Informatica, we will provide the connections for source, for target, and for also lookup transformation. So please open your sheet and write down the connections. Let me create the connections for you, then you can understand where to create it. Then I will explain you how it internally works. So task developer, clear all, create a session, s_ the mapping name, 9. So source, you specify the source connection, that is your source batch SB14. Target connection, target SB14, change bulk to normal, error employee table, target connection SB14. Now you have a source, you have a target. Source will connect to the source database or a file. Target will connect to the target table or a file. Lookup. If you have a lookup transformation, it should get the data into the cache at runtime. So where is that lookup transformation? We have to specify it. If it is a relational database, you have to provide the connection. If it is a file, then you have to provide the path. Where you will provide it? Please observe here, you have the source, you have the 2 targets. You have the source, you have the 2 targets. Then you have the transformations. It will show you all the transformations which Informatica in that particular mapping you have. It will show you here. Expression, it will show you. Router, it will show you. And lookup. For lookup, you specify the path of this file, C:\inf server and src files. Then lookup's file, source file name is salaries.txt file. Open your sheet. Please write down this source, target, and lookup connection. Please write down and let me know. Then I will explain you what will happen internally. So you have created the mapping, you did a lookup on salaries, and you did a router. Now look at it. I have a source, I have a lookup condition, router, because of the space constraint, I didn't put the default group, then target, now you execute the mapping. Let's say I haven't executed it now. You have the 2 sources, src employees and the salaries.txt file. Now when you execute this, source will go to the source database, extract the data of src employees, and lookup will get the data of salaries from the salaries.text file, puts it in the lookup cache, record by record, Informatica will process. First record comes in, scans the cache. Out of the expression transformation, it will scan the cache like a joiner. Detail source will come, it will scan the cache of joiner. Here we'll scan the cache of lookup, and whichever satisfies the condition, 86437. So 86437 is coming from your lookup file to this field. 58,100 is coming from your lookup file, that is in the cache. Then this employee ID is the input to it. Then it returns the value 58,100. We have taken only salary as output, so it will show you only salary output. Then employee ID, first name and the last name, goes into the router transformation. Then group 1 and group 2, it will test for the condition. Not is null employee ID, is null employee ID. First group condition true, load shift. Second record comes in, 8648, goes and tests the data, checks the cache, scans the cache. For 86468, corresponding salary is 81,900. And that will be returned and goes into the router input group, test for the condition, first group condition satisfied, load shift. 86465 comes in, scans the data. In the lookup cache of salaries.text file, does not exist. So for that employee ID, 86465, sorry, please hold on. (86465) scans the data, and 6465 does not exist, so it will return a null value. And salaries also has a null value because condition failed, record does not exist. When the condition fails, it will return a null value, please. When the condition fails, it will return a null value. If the condition is true, whatever the value is there, it will return. Whatever the value is there, it will return. So 86465, salary is null value. Because condition failed, record does not exist, corresponding salary will be a null value, but we have the employee ID, so it will load into the target employee table. 86469 comes in, scans the cache, finds the corresponding record of 82,000, salary, goes out into the router, tests it, first group condition satisfied, loads it. SRC underscore employee null, scans the data, record does not exist for a null value. Null cannot be compared with a null, so it will return a null. Salary, null. Employee ID, null. Goes into your input group. Second group condition is satisfied, so it will load into the target table. This is how it works in Informatica. So lookup transformation looks up for values in the table or a file on which you did the lookup. At runtime, it will put the data in the cache. As soon as the session is executed, it will get all the data into the cache. Then row by row, it will process the data. Row by row, it will scan the cache, returns the value if the condition is true. If not, it will return a null value. That's how lookup works. So before I go further down, let me delete the data because I am loading the data into the same target table. Now, I have already created the session for this. Let me create a workflow for this. Before I execute it, do you have any questions, please? Do you have any questions before I execute this? Now execute. Yasim, are you there? Now I'll execute it. You're watching. You have they are in ab initio they call it a lookup, or what they call it, this concept. Lookup only. So loaded the error employee ID. Oh, we will do it from a table in the business case. So record count 27 loaded. With this, what we call it as a lookup transformation. Yeah, I just once 4 or 5 years back I tried to look into the ab initio, where I saw that you don't have a lookup on a table. You have to convert that data table into a file. There also you need to give connections and all that stuff. Right? This is how a lookup transformation works. You need to do only one master outer join, then use this mapping. Now let us look at it how it internally works. From a Informatica perspective, whenever you write these mappings and all, last 5-10 minutes concept, this is whenever you write, develop the programs, develop mappings, many times what happens, you feel you will not understand what is happening in the mapping, or data may be a problem, your logic may be correct. Data is correct, your logic may be incorrect, and you don't know. Sometimes you are in so confused state that what each transformation will do, what will the output of the transformation, is it coming right or not? Sometimes you'll face a lot of problems. Basically, why you face this is, in a mapping, it is not 1-2 transformation. There may be 5, there may be 10, there may be 15 transformations. So where you are failing, it becomes very difficult to understand from a log file. So Informatica provides you what we call it as a debugger. This came from version 5. I worked from version 4.7. Before 5, there was no debugger. So it used to be very difficult for us to understand where the mistake was. So in a debugger mode, you can view the transformation data. You can view step-by-step process, what is happening, what is the output of each transformation you can see. That is what is debugger. Like any programming, you can use a debugger. Here also you can use a debugger. So you can set up what we call it as breakpoints. From one step to another step you want to go, you can go. Or you go step by step from one step to another step, you will do it in a debugging mode. Basically, debugger is nothing but you executed this workflow. You said start workflow. What did the integration service picked up? Did the whole process by itself. In a debugger mode, what you do is you control the process. Means step by step. You stop integration service basically. Integration service will do step after step, do all the processes. Here in a debugger mode, you will control that flow. You stop it, check, see, then go next step, then go next step. So you control that environment of doing it. This is very useful for developers when you are developing mappings and you are facing problems of logical problem or data problem. To understand it, that's what they call it as a debugger. A lot of trade tools have that, and you can use that in a lot of VB and all that stuff. There is a debugger. So how to create a debug mode? Observe the same mapping I will type. Yeah, okay. You work on Siebel, workflow process. Now all are workflow process only. Every software is talking that only. That's why you see these workflows. This is called workflow concept. So you can go one flow, flow and flow. Now same mapping we will see in a lookup debugger mode. Will it work for you from your machines? I don't know. We used to face problem with version 7. So 8 we don't know. If it does not work, don't blame us, because we try to do best of our service. But and as you know, these licensing, we don't have all the keys and all that stuff, so some features may not work, and I don't have that one. So, but I'll show you what it is, how it is works. Breakpoint means at where you want to stop. First step you stop here. Sometimes what you have 20 transformations. You don't want, you know what is happening in these 2 transformations. You can skip to the 3rd step directly to the 4th transformation. So they call it as breakpoints, where you want to stop the process. Now, first step in a debugger mode is mapping debugger edit breakpoints. So where you want to keep the breakpoints at what transformation, all instances, global breakpoints and all. But you please read help. I'll give a demonstration of this, because it is just a problem. When you get a problem, you look into it. So if you want more information, go and read the help. But I'll show you how a debugger works to make you understand the importance of it. So you set a breakpoint at this level. Now mapping debugger start. This is a general information. That is, when you are in a debug mode, integration server, that is your ETL server, should be up and running, and your repositories and all should be connected, and you should have a existing session. You need a session, or you can create a session in the debug mode also. But generally, in practicals, in projects, I prefer you create a session. Don't go for a debug session, but as a tool it will give you. And you should have source data, and you should have that lookup data if you are doing a lookup. Then you say next. Then it will ask, use an existing session or use an existing reusable session. Create a debug session. We are not going to create a debug session. We use an existing reusable session. What do you mean by existing reusable? Means in a task developer, if you create a session in a task developer, it can be used in multiple workflows. It can be used in multiple workflows. Not only a single workflow, multiple workflows. That's why this is called as a reusable session. The other way around is, in the workflow designer, you can directly create a session also. In the workflow designer, just I'll give an example. You can create a session directly. This is not reusable. This is pertaining to that session only. This is pertaining to that session only. So you can create a session at the workflow designer level, or you can create a session at the task developer level. If you create a session at the task developer level, then it is reusable session. So I use existing reusable session. For a mapping, you can create multiple sessions. So for the same mapping, I have only one session. So I create next. Discard a target data means don't load the data into the target while we are doing this process. If you want to load it, then you disable this. These are the basic settings of a debugger mode. Then finish. It will open up 3 windows. This is what it is doing. It will write it. This option is for what is the data in your target instances when it is loading. It will show you. And here it will show you each transformation output. Step by step we will see each transformation output it will show you. Now we have executed this. So source data has been extracted and put it in the Informatica server. Lookup data has been kept in the lookup cache. Now Informatica does row by row process. Informatica does row by row process, transformation, mapping, debugger, next instance or function key 10 can be used. So first record comes out of your source qualifier transformation. Then I hit F10, goes to the expression transformation. Then F10 scans the lookup cache, pass on that employee ID 86437, scans the cache. What is the output of it? It will show you 58,100. F10, I hit router transformation, input group and output group, first group condition, second group condition, errored out in the second group condition because employee ID is not null. So in error employees, it did not load, it filtered out in the target table. Now it will load into the target table 86437. Then next record comes in. This is how internally integration service works. But it will be fast, super fast. So SRC underscore employee, second record comes in. I hit F10, goes to the next step. I'm going step by step. I'm controlling it. Then output of expression. Then goes to the lookup, scans the cache. Corresponding salary comes out. Goes to the router transformation. Checks for the router condition. Employee ID is null or not null. So it will go route it to the first target table, inserts it. Then third record comes in. Goes to the expression. If you have any calculations, it will show you there. Then goes to the lookup, scans the cache, gets you the salary out of it. Then goes to the router and loads it. Like this, it goes on doing row by row process. It goes on doing for row by row process. Every record it will do. I'm doing manually, F10 I'm hitting it. So H6408 is employee ID, goes to the expression transformation, looks up 72,000 is the salary, router transformation, inserts into the target table. Look at this record. From source, this employee ID is null, which as soon as it sees, it will put a null value to that. No data available for employee ID. Goes to the expression transformation, same data. Now this employee ID null will go and scan the cache of a salaries.txt file of transformation. Condition fails, so it will return a null value. Salary has a null value. If you observe it, null is enabled here. Salary has a null value. Employee ID is null. Salary is a null. Goes to the router transformation. Employee ID is null. So in the target table, TGTMP it is not true. So in error employees it will fall in. Then let's go and look at the error employee table. All data is filtered out. Then F10 864, it has inserted the record in your target error employee table with null value of employee ID. Then next record comes in, goes to the expression, scans the cache, goes to the router. Like this, it will load the data into your target table. This is called the debug mode of Informatica. Step-by-step process. Clear, everybody? With this, I am done for today. This is what you were asking, Mr. Yasin. Others, are you clear about the debug mode? Step by step, you can see this operation. With this, I am done for today. So you have to do one master router join, one lookup transformation, understand it, and the debug may work or may not work. With this, I am done for today. Tomorrow, I am going to talk about aggregated transformation. So please refresh yourself about the group by clause. how it works, what it is. Please refresh yourself based on group by clause. When you do sum of quantity into price and all, in a select statement, you use group by. So please, tomorrow's class have that group by clause in place. That is used for your aggregator function, please. Aggregation of data or summarization of data. I'm not talking about Informatica or something like that from a SQL perspective. When you write a select statement, you use group by. Think why you use group by, how it works and all that stuff. With this, I'm done. Anybody has any questions before I call it a day? Any questions, please?